Hello and welcome to Last Decade and another video. Today we'll be taking a look at 5 Sega Megadrive, or Genesis, depending on your location, exclusive games. There are of course more than 5, but we'll perhaps cover those another time. As far as the games being exclusive, I should probably clarify on the definition for them here. This list comprises of games only originally released on the Megadrive, so no Master System versions or C64, SNES, etc. Some of the games have been re-released for later consoles such as Wii or Steam, but I'm going to give those a pass. There's quite the trend in re-releasing games these days, so if the game is any good, it's highly likely it'll appear on PC or consoles in some form. So let's get stuck into it, and in no particular order. The Road Rash series is one close to my heart, especially the second one, but here we have the third and final one to appear in the 16-bit era. Though I find the graphics somewhat grubby and somewhat of an eyesore, the game still retains the addictive and satisfying gameplay of its predecessors. Engaging chaotic racing, dodging traffic, ramping off various scenery or opponents, and avoiding the fuzz. The game progresses just as its predecessors, with each level consisting of 5 tracks. You must qualify by getting 3rd place or higher in each track to progress to the next level. Levels differ by length of race, and this is the aspect which makes the series compelling. Well, for me at least. The long tracks mean there are no laps, just one-shot tracks at increasing length each level. This definitely makes things more interesting, as even though you'll see the same tracks, the familiar parts are a bit more spread out. The format of the races makes progressing much more challenging in the later levels, and the tracks become really long. By the later levels, races can last upwards of 10 minutes. More aggressive enemies, more chances for you to get knocked off your bike or getting caught by the police. Simply, the longer the race, the higher risk of something going wrong, and things will go wrong. You can buy new bikes to keep up with the competition. A new aspect to this third chapter is being able to upgrade your bike. Each bike can upgrade each stat once, such as speed and grip. It's a nice additional touch to previous games where you just ditched your bike as soon as you could afford the next. During the end of the Mega Drive's life cycle, games started getting somewhat more ambitious with graphics. Some games end up still looking fantastic, but sadly, Road Rash 3 ends up looking incredibly dated, especially when comparing it to Road Rash 2, which still looks acceptable in my opinion. Apart from that though, it's still Road Rash and the gameplay is still solid. New bikes, tracks and weapons give you good reason to check this one out, whether you're familiar with the series or not. Probotector is a series that some of you may at first not be familiar with. Probotector was the censored version of Contra made for Europe. Gameplay is identical, it's just had a whole revamp to the visuals, changing it to robots versus aliens, which I think is just fabulous. The original on the NES is definitely a classic, but the Mega Drive release is a treat. The first thing to mention though is the difficulty. Maybe I'm getting soft, but Probotector is not for the faint of heart. You'll die a lot until you learn the enemies and boss patterns, but even once you have, you'll still get caught out. Gameplay is as you would expect. Run and gun everything down that comes your way. Make sure not to touch anything as it's insta-kill. You can select from 4 different characters, each slightly differing in the weapons that are made available to them. Each character obtains different weapons from pickups in the levels, i.e. CX-1's weapons A will be different to CX-2's. There is some crossover though. Visually, the game reaps the benefits of being a later release and so looks fantastic. Intricate sprites, massive bosses comprised of several sprites, 3D-like sections and side-scrolling chases. This game has a lot to it and should be played for its visuals alone. Music is on point and uses the Yamaha sound chip very well. The music comes courtesy of quite a slew of composers. Regarding the story, it's brought to the fore more than its NES counterpart, with narrative being played and shown as you progress through the game. Due to its censorship, obviously it differs from the US and Japanese versions of Contra. Here, aliens have stolen a device known as the X-Drive, and you need to recover it to stop it being used for nefarious purposes. There are branching levels which will end up telling you different aspects of the story and engaging in different levels. This gives you a good reason to give the game another run through. That's of course if you have the metal to complete it, for even a first time. Sadly, the alternative ending available in Contra Hardcore is not accessible here. All in all though, an excellent game, if a tad on the hard side. Oh yes, Dracula is up to no good again in this chapter of Castlevania on the Mega Drive, or at least his niece is. The new generation, or Bloodlines for the US, follows John Morris and Eric Lecarde as they battle to stop Elizabeth Bartley from resurrecting Dracula. Elizabeth manipulates events to cause the First World War, giving her access to numerous souls across Europe, enabling her to resurrect Dracula once again. There's a little more intricacy to the story, but I'll leave it at that. Gameplay will be familiar to any fan of the Castlevania series. Typical platforming action with the use of the famous vampire killer whip, at least if you choose to play as John. If you choose Eric, then you get a spear, which even though has a longer range, doesn't quite do as much damage. Each character also has a special action. John can use his whip to swing through the levels and navigate across large chasms, while Eric can do a pole jump, allowing him to reach higher platforms. This adds some variety to each character's playthrough, as they can only access certain routes through the levels. An example would be on stage 3. John must swing through the section of this level where Eric needs to jump up through the tower to progress. Definitely a nice little extra touch, and one that provides some replayability. Graphics wise, Bloodlines has quite a bit going for it. It generally is pretty nice to look at, and where it stands out are the various graphical effects. Water reflections, sprite rotations and multi-sprite enemies, but it still has fantastic visuals. Bloodlines is decently challenging without feeling cheap, and even if the difficulty isn't to your liking, it can be made harder or easier. The art style is fantastically gruesome and atmospheric. A definite must-play for any Castlevania fan. From the sublime to the ridiculous, we have Toejam and Earl. I suppose this one is classified as an adventure game. It's certainly different, and definitely a game to check out if you've never heard of Toejam and Earl before. The alien duo's adventures begin when Toejam foolishly lets Earl take control of their ship. Earl ends up crashing the ship on a crazy planet known as Earth. This is all described in an incredibly long intro, but one that is charming nonetheless. Having crashed on Earth, the duo must search for the scattered parts of their ship so that they can return home to their planet of Funkatron. In this crazy world, Earth is for some reason broken up into several vertical layers. Each layer is accessible through finding the exit elevator for the level. The Earthlings themselves are also very interesting, some more deadly and hindering to your quest than others. Enemies range from Hawaiian hula girls, mad scientists to hamsters, burrowing dogs and mothers with shopping carts. To help you on your quest, presents are scattered throughout the levels, each with the ability to either help or hinder your quest to retrieve the ship. Upon first opening a present, you'll have no idea what's in it, but once identified it will be labelled in your menu. Obviously there is a risk that some presents will just outright kill you. Even beneficial presents can hinder your quest if opened at the wrong time. But this only adds to the game and makes you want to explore more and see what may happen. You can choose to play in 1 or 2 player as either Toejam or Earl, and with a set or random world. And a note of warning, don't expect to be able to remember what the presents contain, as the items seem to change on each playthrough, or at least they did on the random world game. Toejam and Earl is definitely different and much slower pace of a game than your usual console romp. The soundtrack is absolutely fantastic and has some really funky FM tunes. It might not be everyone's cup of tea, but it might just hook you into its wacky world of adventure. The Story of Thor, or Beyond Oasis, is seemingly one of the Mega Drive's lesser known yet awesome titles. Story of Thor is a top-down adventure/action game in a similar vein to Zelda. It follows the story of Prince Ali, who finds the gold armlet and endeavours to find all the spirits it can summon and fight back the evil silver armlet wearer. Gameplay is a mix between Zelda and a beat-em-up. You have basic attacks with your dagger, but you can also perform special attacks. An encircling flame swipe and a jumping flame strike, as well as kicks and power slashes. As well as your basic dagger, you'll find various weapons throughout the game, with limited uses such as swords, crossbows and bombs. The spirits are gradually acquired throughout your playthrough. Each has an element, those being water, fire, shadow and earth, or plant. All the weapons and spirits are not only used for combat, but for puzzles and navigating through the varying areas. Ditto the water spirit can remove waterfalls, for example, and Bo the plant spirit can chomp his way through metal bars. You have a map to help you navigate, and this helps you progress the story and tell you where you need to go. There is even a save mode, so you can enjoy the game as leisurely as you wish. The various puzzles, enemies and bosses will definitely keep you coming back for more. Exploring is rewarded with powerful weapons and items, though if you wish to make a beeline for the main story, you can simply do that. The Story of Thor or Beyond Oasis is a must-play. It has lots of variety, and whether you like your puzzles or bashing opponents, you'll find something to love here. So that was 5 exclusive games for the Sega Megadrive. I hope you enjoyed this video. Drop a like if you did, and maybe subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Leave a comment and let me know what exclusive games you would urge people to play on Sega's 16-bit platform. But that's all from me for today. I hope you enjoyed the video and see you next time.